Hey, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk About It. This is Susan Johnson, and I'm here with my co-host, Dennis O'Brien, and we have a fantastic, very special guest for you this evening. We have President Karim Ismaili from Eastern Connecticut State University here to talk to us about Eastern Connecticut State University and many other things. Isn't that great, Dennis?
That is great, and Dr. Ismaili is not a stranger to WILI. Wayne Norman bragged to me about how he had him on before we did. And also, of course, John Murphy, who's affiliated with Eastern. We know John Murphy's a great guy. We love John Murphy and Wayne Norman, but they scooped us. So Dr. Ismaili is he's making the rounds, and we're very, very happy he was available to come and visit with us tonight. And the week before Christmas. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I feel like this is my second home. Thank you.
Oh, good.
Very good.
We're thrilled to have you here. And I'm a graduate from Eastern Connecticut State University. Our daughter is a graduate from Eastern Connecticut State University, and so is our son-in-law. So we've got an ECSU family, except for my co-host, who is a UConn graduate.
I'm a renegade. Husky pup.
But we are thrilled to have you here. And so let me just say a few changes have been made at Eastern since I was there and when Dr. Webb was there back in the day. Yeah. And then our daughter was there when Dr. Carter was there. And we actually, at one point in time, our daughter was working for the Senate Democrats, and I had just been elected to be the state representative. So she was in the Senate, I was in the House. And we saw Dr. Carter there. He says, "You're both here now?" So
funny.
That was a funny remark from our former and very, very loved President Carter. He was a great president, and he really picked up a lot of things for Eastern Connecticut State University in terms of we have a science center now, numerous buildings, the library is gorgeous, and but that is kind of like my little teeny background. But now you're here and you have a fabulous background. We'd like to just give the listening audience a little bit of the information about your great background, because
Sure.
you have been around and you have a great background in terms of your studies and in terms of now being the president here at ECSU.
Yeah, well, I thank you, Susan. I feel so fortunate to be the president of Eastern over the last 5 months. Everything that I learned as I was going through the search process to be the president has been reinforced by the sense of community, the incredible faculty, staff, and students. I will tell you, the students love Eastern, and I think it's understandable why. We have a great curriculum. We have a great focus on the liberal arts. If anyone's ever come to campus, or I invite anyone to come to campus, you'll see what a vibrant community we have. My background, I feel very fortunate to be here at this incredible university. I followed, I think, a traditional academic path to become the president, in that I was most recently the provost and executive vice president at Bridgewater State University. I've been fortunate to be a professor. I've gone through the different ranks of the professoriate. I was a dean. I was a vice provost and a provost. And then at some point, I had this audacious thought that maybe I could be a president. And I had an incredible number of mentors and colleagues who supported that. And when the position at Eastern came up after the retirement of the amazing President Elsa Nunez, I was encouraged by a number of people to apply. And here I am. And I can't believe it. And every day I wake up and I think how fortunate I am to be part of this community.
I think the community is very fortunate to have you here. You have great energy and you have a fabulous background focusing in criminal justice systems and sociology. And that is something that I think is really something we all need to focus on in the society, because I think some of it gets confused sometimes.
Yes, I agree. And what I think, before we went on air, we were talking about sociology and how sociology is a discipline that I think challenges your everyday assumptions and shines a light in areas where you might not understand the challenges that people face and how our institutions sometimes reinforce inequality. So, when we think about one discipline, we have great faculty and we have students that are engaged in these issues. But if you multiply that across the social sciences, across the arts, across multiple domains, professional studies, health studies, you get a sense of how a university can really help students prepare not only for the next step in their lives, but also for their lives in general. So it's a wonderful array of programs that we offer at Eastern, and our goal is to really help students be creative, to communicate effectively, to be critical thinkers, to understand the data that's before them so that they're quantitatively literate, and also that they're ethical and that they engage in ethical reasoning throughout their lives. So to be president of a university that's engaged in that kind of work is wonderful.
Given what you said, I mean, you're right in the right place. I mean, this is the only liberal arts public higher education school in the state of Connecticut, which is known for higher education. It's a lot of times people talk about Connecticut, and we travel a lot around the U.S. because of the Susan goes to conferences, and I tag along sometime, and we've been all over the place. We've been to Hawaii a couple times, Palm Springs, Florida, all kinds of places, nice places for conferences. And we've, every time I come home, I'm very happy to come home.
Yes.
Connecticut is a great state. So people are, highly educated, relatively speaking, and the value of a liberal arts education is sometimes underestimated. But there is a lot of ever since I can remember, there's been a lot of writing about the importance of a liberal education for citizens,
yes.
Not just for your job or your employment, but to be a good citizen.
Absolutely.
And I think you just summed it all up in what you said about why you about your background.
Yeah, and Dennis, I think that we are in we're in an age where there's hyper-partisanship and there's polarization. When we talk about liberal education, we're not talking about partisanship. We're not talking about political ideology. Right. What we're talking about is a breadth of knowledge. It's a breadth of knowledge that started with Harvard College in the United States and expanded into other universities. And we think about Eastern and its tradition of educating teachers to be the most effective teachers possible as a normal school. And it's evolved into a university that is committed to broadening people's perspectives, to giving them an understanding of not only the environment that they're living in, but also the world. Having a global awareness, having a cultural awareness. Again, for me and for our university, we take pride in creating what we feel are the best engaged citizens that we can create, so that they can take full advantage of the world around them and contribute to the world around them.
I'm glad you clarified the definition of liberal as it appears in the term liberal arts, because I've been called that by a lot of people, a liberal, and rightly so. And I that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about open-mindedness, the breadth, as you said, the breadth of knowledge that enables you to become, to serve the country as a great citizen. Go ahead, Susan.
One of the things.
Your turn, Susan.
Thank you, Dennis. But this is a great discussion, and one of the things that I find for leaders, but also for people who want to involve themselves in public policy or wherever you're working, whether you're playing team sports or whether you're, wherever you work, understanding where you are, who the people are that you're working with, understanding how the policies were formed and what their impact is. These are the kinds of things that I think good leaders are supposedly supposed to know and understand. And people, if they want to be good citizens, have to understand how things work. They have to understand how everything occurred and how it developed into policies and how the people got to support it. When we don't understand certain things, we may make a policy that doesn't work right. Or if we do understand it at the time and things change, then we might have to change it based on the understanding that was at the time, and then you make a policy going forward. But there's always constant change, and in a society like this, where you look at Connecticut, you look at the United States, you look at all the different states, they all have their own constitutions, they all are separate economic, places, and they all have their own demographics. They're all different environmentally. So we have a very diverse country, and to have that understood by people all from all over the country about your fellow country people is something that I think we need to do more of, and that's why what you do at Eastern Connecticut State University is so important. That's why sociology is important, because it really does help people at least begin to look for how to understand how things occurred and what's going to happen, perhaps.
I couldn't agree with you more, and I love the fact that you talked about understanding. Understanding is not something that you can just say. It's something that you have to actually work at, and it requires understanding multiple perspectives, meeting people where they are, understanding their experiences and what sort of is driving their decisions. And if we can understand that, I believe that we can come to compromise, we can come to understand, we can come to have a shared understanding, because that's the other important thing. When we talk about sociology, let me just return. There's a famous German sociologist, Max Weber, who talked about something called Verstehen, which is understanding. And and that was really one of the foundational ideas in sociology, because when we think about understanding, what we're really driving at is ultimately making the world better through that understanding.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, there's such a need for that now. The world has become much more complex through the advances in technology, which are wonderful at the same time, threatening to some extent. I mean, I think a lot of changes, especially with, when I went to school, I didn't even have a television at home. And I wasn't, addicted to it or anything. And I was out playing all the time. My mother would say, hey, you're hanging around the house, go on outside. Even if I was 6 or 7 years old, make a snowman, that kind of thing. Yeah. But now kids have all these channels to watch on TV, streaming, phones. We all rely on these things for doing what we do. I'm still practicing law, and I use a computer, a PC, and I couldn't do it without that. At the same time, I recognize that it is something that came on us recently, and it is complicated, and there's all kinds of changes being made on a daily basis in the way we live, when for decades and eons there weren't hardly any changes at all in the way people lived. And, there's an old book called The Future Shock by Alvin Toffler.
I know.
And I'm going to stop talking because Sue thinks I'm talking too much.
But we do want to have our guests talk.
Oh, yeah, we want our guests to talk.
And go ahead, follow up on the future shock, and then I've got a question for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think technology is transforming the world around us.
Yeah.
And so in an environment like that, at a university, what you have to recognize is that there's a process of accommodating and understanding how technology can help the learning process, but also how it can threaten, I think, the core learning experiences that you need students to have.
Right.
So, for example, within a university, it won't surprise you that artificial intelligence is being used across different disciplines. But what's interesting is how we're really thinking clearly about disciplines where artificial intelligence is actually going to be essential to the workforce, and also in other areas how you can use artificial intelligence to help your creativity. So we can, universities are very, very good at taking a sense of what the world is about at this moment, thinking ahead, and then utilizing that for students to not only gain knowledge, but also be proficient with technology that is out there. And it's very difficult. I honestly, for me, as the president of the university, I've recognized that I cannot be on top of everything.
Yeah.
But I will tell you that students are on top of a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And what I think about is, if we think about a learning environment, which a university is, I feel that I'm the learner in chief, almost. You know, you get those diverse perspectives, you get a sense of how students are engaging with the world. And if we aren't understanding of that, then we're missing something. But at the same time, we have to recognize that universities exist because we have something to provide. Knowledge, traditions, norms, histories, cultural understanding, but also global awareness. So this is the beautiful incubator that a university is. And I also want to say that a university exists in an ecosystem, in an environment. And so one of the things that is really important to Eastern is that we recognize that we're hosted in the town of Willimantic, in Windham County, and that we want to be a regional resource. So again, my invitation is for the community to come to Eastern, to experience Eastern, but also for us, I will say that the university will be part of the community in the way that it's always been. Provide services, provide support, provide community, be engaged in the community, and be a resource that supports everything that this area requires.
That's excellent. And we're running down where we're going to go to our sponsors in 2 minutes, but we'll just start the conversation a little bit before we go to our sponsors to discuss just your first semester at Eastern, and tell us your impressions of what it's been like to be president at Eastern for the first semester.
Oh, thank you. Well, it won't surprise you to know that for me, I wanted to learn as much as I could about Eastern, and so I'm on a listening and learning tour. I've had about 25 of those meetings. I'm hoping that you'll participate in one of those meetings.
Oh, we'd love to.
Yeah, and what I've done is I've brought together a great cross section of individuals, stakeholders, and I'm learning from them about their aspirations for the university.
Perfect. You want to go to a break?
Yeah, I think we need to go to a break because I think it's a big topic. But I think what you're doing is makes perfect sense. I mean, you have to learn about the environment that you've come into. You've only been in it since July 31st, I think, officially.
Correct.
But you were actually hired back in May. Okay, we're going to be right back with our very special guest, the new president of Eastern Connecticut State University, Karim Ismaili. Okay, Karim Ismaili. I'm going to get that so it flows right off the tongue. Karim Ismaili. Great to have him here. We're going to be right back with Karim. And first we want to hear from our sponsors.
Back, everyone. This is Susan Johnson. I'm here with the president of Eastern Connecticut State University, Karim Ismaili, and my co-host, Dennis O'Brien. And we were just talking about how his first semester he's just completed and how he's been going on a listening tour. And tell us some of the things that you've learned about the university and your listening tour.
Can I modify the question just a bit? I wanted to know what your expectations were going in. And then what and then what you've learned. Obviously you've been working very hard to acquaint yourself with the whole setup.
I have to just say that's a wonderful way to just add something to the conversation.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm glad I have your agreement. Okay, you're on.
All right.
You're on.
So what I will say is that when we created the Listening and Learning Tour, I was very intentional that it wasn't going to be going to each department at the university and sort of learning about them. That's happening in parallel. But the Listening and Learning Tour is really about Eastern's mission, our designation, as you mentioned, Dennis, as our public liberal arts university. It was about thinking about our opportunities, and it was really a way for everyone to really understand that Eastern's mission, our designation, the work that we do as a regional public university, being part of the community was important. And then what happened was we create. So those were the foundational issues we started with, and then we had a series of questions, and the questions is what drove the discussion. So when you so what I would say is we have a separate set of prompts for our faculty and staff, a separate set of questions for our students, a separate set of questions for our alums, for community leaders, and eventually we're going to get to legislative representations, representatives. We're going to get to system officials. And the reason for that was because we wanted individuals to think about Eastern and what the aspirations are for it, so that I could understand not only the past, the present, but also think about the future. Your question sort of is a great one. And what I will say, first and foremost, everyone that has participated, and it's a broad cross-section of stakeholders, loves Eastern. Mm-hmm. Their expression of that affection for Eastern may differ, but what I will say is that there is an understanding that Eastern is a special place. As an aside, I've heard this comment: Eastern is a hidden gem. My sort of retort to that is, we don't want Eastern to be a hidden gem. We want everyone to understand what Eastern is and what it means to the students that we educate, what it means to the individuals that are supporting those students at the university, and what it means to the region. But there are other issues that have come up. So, for example, we know that there are fewer high school graduates, traditionally aged high school graduates, that are going to graduate, and there's a lot of competition in public higher education and private higher education to attract those students. As a university, we have to be responsive to that trend. And so right now, if you look at Eastern, our focus has been on, traditionally, the liberal arts. It's been on the humanities, the social sciences. It's been on programs that are what I would call a traditional liberal arts programs, the humanities. But over time, there's been an expansion towards more professional programs. So you're aware of the great relationship we have with Hartford Healthcare, with our new nursing program that.
Yeah, I'm very,
so
very,
impressive.
very pleased with that, and that's one of the areas that we've been looking at as a legislature. And I've been, of course, as I mentioned many times on the air here, my background is in the areas of Medicare and Medicaid, and the work that I do at the Capitol is part of the Medicaid Policy Oversight Council. So we are looking at these systems for health insurance, the Medicaid systems, the Medicare systems, and those are the things that we look at. And when we went through COVID, and even before that, we realized that there was a real shortage of nurses in this area, despite the fact we had a program at the Three Rivers Community College and also at UConn, and we did have a baccalaureate degree program for nursing students at Eastern when I was there.
Yeah.
But now, working with Hartford Health and our wonderful people here at Hartford Health at Wyndham Hospital, we are really pleased to see Eastern Connecticut State University working with Donna Handley, who is the CEO for both Norwich Hospital and for Wyndham Hospital. And I hope that what will happen over the time is that once we start to grow the nursing staff, more of the services at Wyndham Hospital will be reinstated. But I think that we have to look at where we are.
Yeah.
We have to look at some of the studies that are being done through the Office of Healthcare Strategy that I helped create back when they closed down the intensive care unit. And so I was able to do that and to have the state analyze access to health care and try and make sure it's evenly distributed all throughout the state of Connecticut. So we are regulated. They are doing a job where they are making sure that we're not running into the situation, at least I hope, like they did in Stewart in Massachusetts, where they lost 7 of the 9 hospitals that Stewart had, although we had run into a bit of problem with the prospect of privatized hospitals, that hospital ownership that had an impact on Rockville Hospital, Manchester Hospital, and Waterbury Hospital. But we're still working on trying to address that, but regulating that so that it's something where we have stability all throughout the state is something the Office of Healthcare Strategy is working very hard to do. continue, but they also need money to be able to do that, just like Eastern needs money. But I just wanted to throw that in there because I wanted to have you understand my perspective and where I'm coming from, because I am very, very pleased that Eastern and Wyndham Hospital, Harvard Health, is working to have us have more access to nursing. And my understanding is that there's been about 90 graduates so far.
We have, we haven't any graduates right now because the program just started, but we have 70 students. We had a new recruiting class. It's a very popular program, and the partnership with Harvard Healthcare is really strong. They're going to be building out a simulation lab so that our students can go right to the hospital just down the road. That's really important. So when we think about our traditional strengths around education, when you think about the arts, the incredible arts facility, but also our arts faculty and what students are doing. When you see that, what you see is what's coming out in the Listening and Learning Tour is incredible resources that we have, and I think for me, as the new president, and maybe this is the perspective I come from the outside, I want. Sometimes when you're in an institution, you don't see the strengths that you have. And so I'm reflecting back what I'm learning and saying, you have these strengths. We can also think about this in terms of our co-curricular activities, undergraduate research, global field courses, our athletics programs, our community service work. So my thought and what is coming out of Listening and Learning Tour is that the faculty, the staff, the students, they're recognizing that there's an opportunity for Eastern to evolve its mission. So the way that I framed it from day one was liberal arts plus. The plus is thinking about the great liberal arts foundation that we provide students, but then you have a nurse who's serving the community. You have an accountant with the liberal arts background. You have a student with a degree in English. You have someone who's studying computer science, and they're bringing to employers an amazing array of skills that I think make them distinctive among the candidates for positions. So how do we pivot not away from the liberal arts, but augment the liberal arts with, for example, our graduate programs, our programs that reach out to adult learners, programs that reach out to students that have secured enough credits to move through a program, but not enough to get a degree. These are all questions that Eastern, I think, is obligated to explore, and where we land on those questions, I think, is important for the future of the university. So these are all, what I'm sharing with you is not just my ideas, but ideas that have been reinforced.
You've really hit on something that we're looking at in the legislature almost every session since I've been there, because the cost of the educational system, the higher educational system, is going up. One thing that the House Chair, Representative Haddad, has been working hard on is he's made it so that community college is free.
Yes.
For certain groups.
Yes.
Which actually, people said, well, what about the regular university system? But what would happen, and it was our understanding and the data we have, is that it would increase the number of juniors and seniors that you have at your university. So it would keep the flow of students all the way through to graduation. And it would also help students who were getting into college and maybe didn't get the background in their, in their secondary school time to actually be able to function at college level.
Yep.
And so they get a chance to take care of those things and then get up to speed, and then they get through college that way, or they get their associate's degree and maybe work and then go back to college. And that's the kind of thing that I'm very, very pleased to see, because it gives people more opportunity, more things to do in our society, and we certainly have a need for more advancement in education, because we have all these things, as you were mentioning, technical computers, all this technical work. Even manufacturing these days is highly, highly technical, requires people to have calculus and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
It's not like the manufacturing back in the day when I was growing up. It's really very, very sterile environments and very, very highly technical. So they really, in order for us to expand manufacturing in this area in Connecticut, in the country, we really have to have the expertise conveyed to our students, and we have to be able to support them to do that.
Absolutely.
I love what you said about liberal arts plus, because that seems to comport with, your background. Because I read up on your background, and I think in other places you have been emphasizing that, assessing the needs of the community at large and attempting to help to meet those needs for, workers and careers, and that's really what we need. That is just what we need. I liberal arts plus. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Have you used that before, or is that a first? Is this on Let's Talk About It? You heard it first on Let's Talk About It, folks.
I think I have said it, but what I will say
but
is
not on
that,
the radio.
Yeah, no, that's right. And Susan Dennis, I want to say something about affordability. Mm-hmm. So over the past 5 months, when I've been interacting with students, and I ask them, why did you select Eastern? Now, we might think, I selected Eastern because of the liberal arts education. I selected Eastern because it's close to home.
Nice campus.
It's a beautiful campus.
It
But
is.
you know what the number one reason? Mm-hmm. Affordability.
Yes.
Affordability. I will tell you that of course we offer a great education. Of course we're close to home. Of course we provide incredible supports for students. But ultimately we have to be affordable.
Yeah.
So, as you know, I have been fortunate to I have 3 citizenships. And I'm going to say something here.
Please do.
Public higher education is not affordable.
And it should be.
And it should be. It can be more affordable. The range of supports and services and advising needs for students is only increasing. Mental health issues, the needs there are only increasing. The requirements for students to be adept with technology is only increasing. And if you look at the array of needs I've just told you about, all of them have a cost. So when we think about enrollment may be declining, but that doesn't mean the needs of students aren't greater than they ever were. So there's this kind of balance that we have to strike. If we only look at one metric, we will come to a conclusion. But then if you dig deeper and you understand what a university needs to provide, adequate housing, providing the sorts of experiential opportunities to students, providing work study for students, providing financial aid for students, and expanding that as much as we can. So what I will say is, comparatively speaking, for similarly situated industrialized democracies, the United States is not affordable when it comes to public higher education.
I think Susan and I have been complaining about that for years.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we complain about it all over the
Do we know what to
Capitol.
do about it? No, but it's a factor. When I paid $75 a semester,
Right.
For 3 years at UConn and $300 a year for 3 years at UConn Law School.
There you go. Mm-hmm. See? Mm-hmm. And so I think that when we think about regional public universities like Eastern, what are they? They're engines of opportunity. They help students on pathways to social mobility. As a first-generation student myself, who was raised by a single mother, I never thought that I was going to get a degree. But I did because I had an affordable option. Mm-hmm. And look, now I'm the university president of an incredible institution. Every student that graduates from Eastern, look at yourself, Susan, as a graduate. Mm-hmm. The pathways that we open up are immeasurable in terms of options that we provide. Mm-hmm. That's what we want. We want students to have options. Mm-hmm. And if we believe in an investment in our society, in our country, in our state, we have to sort of think about the investment that we're making now, and whether we need to increase that investment.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and that's spot on. And I just want to say, I was very lucky too. I came from a disadvantaged situation. My father passed when I was 5 years old,
Yes.
and I was eligible for the Pell Grant. The Pell Grant paid the whole tuition.
Yeah.
When I went to the community college, and it paid for my Eastern Connecticut State University bachelor's degree. So I was very, very lucky. The Pell Grant since is diminished. Doesn't pay the whole tuition cost.
Yeah.
Tuition costs have increased. Pell Grants are there, but they're nowhere near addressing the full cost of education for students like me who lived on Social Security survivors benefits. And even then, under the Reagan administration, they took away Social Security survivors benefits now to the kids, and once they're 18, they no longer get it. So, back in the day when I was on Social Security survivors benefits, it was you got it till you're 22.
Yeah.
But we're going to give you the last 2 minutes, President. We want you to have the last 2 minutes. Just tell our listeners your vision and some of your thoughts about Wyndham.
Well, first of all, I'm so honored to be the president of Eastern, as I've said, and to be part of this community. I have had an opportunity to interact with community organizations, with business leaders, with yourself and legislators who care about this region, and that what I will say is there is something special about the commitment to providing for citizens and residents of Wyndham. It's also extremely diverse. That's a strength that we should really value. I think for me at Eastern, here's the target. Here's the ambitious target. I want Eastern to be known as the premier public liberal arts university in the United States. Why not?
Why not?
Why not?
Why not?
Why not?
You have to shoot for the stars. We'll shoot for the stars. And what I will say is we have an institution with a core feeling of dedication to the mission. And I feel so proud to be able to say that I'm the leader of this institution. But I don't lead alone. I lead with people who are supporting our students every day. And the students themselves, they're exceptional. And they believe in what Eastern does. And I think, for me, we're in a great place. Under difficult circumstances, of course, budgetarily, I don't think there's anything we can't overcome.
I think you're right about that, and I'll be working to talk to you some more. And we really appreciate your presence on this show. And this is Susan Johnson with Dennis O'Brien, and we've had a wonderful guest this evening. And we look forward to having you back, President Ismaili. And we'll be back with a brand new show next week, so stay tuned.